Continue.
So good morning, Nick. Nice to meet you. Thank you for taking time.
It's not morning over here. I'm on my first beer, so it's you can use that as an excuse to reach for. I think there's a wine cabinet behind you. I think I can see a bottle in the background, but you know, it's always 6 o'clock somewhere. That's the way. That's the way to remember it.
Where are you located right now?
Yeah. So yes, good morning to you, or good afternoon, or whatever it is.
Well, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here, so.
Wow, the world's such a big place, isn't it?
I know, right?
I've been really suffering because of the Olympics, because of the time difference. So I've got sort of Olympic lag, where I've been staying up to 2 and 3 in the morning watching, getting really involved in like the hammer, weightlifting or whatever it is, you know, these strange obscure sports that I normally didn't care about. I've really been bitten by the Olympic bug, but because of it being in Tokyo, the time difference is terrible for us in the middle. I think you see it at the other end, so you just get up a bit early, but for us it's like 2 and 3 a.m. and you know it's been a killer, but fun.
Right.
And I think you won something. You won a significant gold medal today. You won the 200 meters. De Grasse, he's a proper Canadian, born and bred, and so I think he's from your side of town as well. I think, and so yeah, you're doing quite well. The Canadians the maple leaf is flying high. Oh, Canada! All of that, you know. There's been a bit of that being played. It's been great.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's definitely nice to see them coming home with the gold. Yeah,
good. You know, as I said before the interview, before you press record, when I said all the expletives and things that will get us in trouble. I've worked in Canada. Is it 3 or 4 times I've worked in Canada, and it's fantastic. It's an amazing part of the world. I've been in Toronto and Vancouver, and in the middle. I was in Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan, which was, you know, on the prairies, which was, that's a slightly different planet. That's like, you know, oh no, my dog's escaped. I'll go and get it next week. You know, it's just it's like nothing. There's nothing out there. So that was, but yeah, and I really like the Canadian sense of humor and there's some very, very beautiful parts of the world out there. So yeah, it was lovely to be there, and it's lovely to be talking to you.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual.
So far.
Now, this movie that we're discussing this today, creation stories that you directed. Now, this isn't your first time directing, of course.
No, far from it. I'm much more of a director who acts than an actor who directs. It's just it takes much longer to direct a film, and it's such a, especially from the way I do it, it's so all-encompassing that it's going to take up the next 2 or 3 years of your life. So I try to do it. You can act, you can even star in a movie, and especially these days, in a few weeks. You rock up, you do your prep, do it properly, do your best, and then disappear. And you're not sort of aware as an actor necessarily until you've done some directing that's just a very small part of the year before and the year afterwards of the work that goes into making a film. So as a director, I'm very lucky because I get to act in films as a sideline, as another job, before I throw myself into directing something which I know is going to be really, really all-encompassing. I'm not a director for hire, without the risk of sounding like a pretentious arse. I am an auteur. I do adapt the scripts. I've got additional writing or co-writing credits on everything that I've made, or I've written them completely. I get involved in every aspect of them. Like with creation stories, I did a lot of the music. That was me, and I got a co-composer's credit on that, and as well as being in it. And I have a team of people that I work with regularly, and I do everything I can to get involved in across the whole of the picture. And obviously it means your life goes on hold while that happens, and I can't realistically make more than a film every few years. So
Right.
my first couple of films were back to back, and they're wonderful pictures. There was quite a long respite between the second movie I directed and this one, because I know how how all encompassing it is, and I'm lucky that I can act in stuff while I'm waiting for the right film to come along to make.
I like the flip story, because we've seen so many movies like The Commitments and so many movies where it's the up and coming of the bands, but this is the other side of the story. The flip side of the story is the up and coming of the record label and
Yeah, it's
McGee
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because my first film, Telstar, was about a maverick record producer in the '60s who was this brilliantly insane character that ultimately commit, a very tragic ending. But what goes on behind the Sha La La's is much more interesting than the actual Sha La La bit itself, in the same way that directing a film is actually far more interesting, more complex, and more with far more cadence than if you're just in the movie, acting in the movie. Right. It's not until you become a real, like people like yourself that are real and people that tune into your website that are real film buffs, that they understand that the making of the film is more than just the guy that's or girl that's presenting it, the actors in front of it. And I think that's one of the reasons that this film's so interesting, because it's about the record label. It's about the crazy guys that decide that stick the bird to the corporations and say, we're going to make our own record label. This record label then ends up becoming bigger than the corporations, and then ends up becoming swallowed by the corporations, and then unfortunately ends up becoming part of the corporations. You become the thing that you hate. It's a sort of Greek predestined sort of tragedy, really. Yeah. And that's what's so interesting about the film, is that it's not a film for Oasis fans. It's not a film for Britpop fans. It's a film about rebellion and striving to do something that's different, and then realizing that you're just feeding the beast that you hate, whether you're meant to or not. And it's about the human condition, and it's about the nature of addiction and recovery. And what I liked about the script, and one of the things I'm most proud about the film, is that most rock and roll films, and now they're all right, they serve a purpose, and there's a load of them that have done really well, but like, the guy's got a drug problem, an alcohol problem, whatever, and then he has therapy, and then he's all right. That's the first 2/3 of our film. It's like when Alan McGee, this incredible maverick sort of crazy genius, and he's in his gang, when they've taken on the world and forced them into submission, and then he goes into it, then it goes too far and he goes into recovery. The most interesting part of the film is that what do you do when you're sober, and you realize the world's still as crazy as it was. Yeah. And you've still got all of the intelligence and power and irreverence and things that made you, that put you in that position in the first place. What happens next? Well, this is what happens when you're sober. You end up with the prime minister or the president, and you realize they're just as crazy, attention-seeking, self-serving monsters that the record labels were. It's the same shit, different packet. And that's the interesting thing of Alan McGee's life and his story. It doesn't end with sobriety. That's just the page turn, And I've seen so many films where the guys get sober and then it's all right. It's like, well, no, what happens next? That's more interesting. And that's the journey of this film as well. That's one of the things that I think works really well, and is one of the other unique sales points of the film, is that it's not about the bands, it's not about the music, and it's not about getting sober. It's about what happens afterwards.
Well, and essentially for me, what I got from the film was the message for me, at least that I got from the film, was don't give up on your dreams, because he never gave up. He never gave up. He fought tooth and nail to get where he was, and he was like, I don't care if you like these guys or not. I'm putting them on the label, and screw you. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And that dogged determination. The more Alan McGee is this little chippy ginger sod who wouldn't do what he was told, you know. And people like that generate energy, and often it's spectacular, and that's what this film's about. It is about belligerence in the face of adversity. It is that I won't be an electrician. No, I won't settle down with this girl in this, you know, because she's better looking than me. No, I won't stay at home. I'm going to go to London where the punks are. You know, I'm going to go to London and start a band and become a star. And that doesn't happen, but something far more interesting happens, you know. And I think you're absolutely right. It is a film about, I really wanted to make sure, especially with the additional writing that me and Irving did, and writing the voiceovers and finessing stuff and making the point that this is a film about rebellion. You know, the things that I like the most are the conclusion of the film is that be rich, be poor, but be a rebel always, because there's always something to rebel for. You know, it starts out with two kids in a record shop buying a Sex Pistols album, buying a punk album. That's rebellion. And that will end up, that as long as you keep that rebellion, you'll end up with for better or worse, you know, you'll end up somewhere spectacular, somewhere you could end up anywhere. And that's the message of the film, you know. And it's very much an anti-corporation movie. I mean, people that haven't seen the film, well, the most controversial scene in it is obviously the fantasy sequence when he goes to see a big record company, and the big corporate boss comes in and does what he wants. And that's
up his jacket and bends him over the table, and
don't spoil it now. But it's, you know, that was a scene that was in the original draft of the script, and for me that was the best scene in the script, and I wanted to make more moments like that throughout the film. I wanted to make sure that there was a moment like that every 15 or 20 minutes that's, you know, that's spectacular visually and is a metaphor and tells the story as well as it can, because it is all about the corporations. And one of the line, which was one of the voiceovers that we added, was the corporate disguised itself as hipster and indie disappeared, because that's what sort of happened, you know. The indie music scene that people like me and you enjoyed, that's gone forever now, because it's all on your music's on a little device, and people tell you what's cool and tell you you're really important and you're an individual, but by the way, this is what's cool, so this is what you should buy. You can't have an indie scene. You can't be fans of a band that no one's ever heard of, because that doesn't exist anymore, you know. And having to track down those records or find those old record shops that sell those rarities, and going to see a band above a pub that no one knows about, you know, those things, that sort of punk ethos, that unfortunately, unless something changes, that's gone away. And this is a celebration of that and that epoch, you know, as much as anything else, because that's sort of gone now, you know. It's all on your device, and that'll, you know, that's where you listen to things, and that's what tells you what's cool. And this is a time before that, you know. For me, you know, a more informed time in a way, because you had to explore. If you wanted to be a rebel, you know, get into punk. Everybody hates that. That pisses everybody off. Do that. Yeah. You know, but you can't do that anymore. Now it's like, oh, that's great, you have the right to do that. It's like, oh, come on. You know, you can't be a teenage rebel. It's nothing. They're really understanding now. You know, punk wouldn't happen in the modern age. People would like try and understand it.
Really wouldn't. Yeah. And Ewen Bremner is just fantastic. How did you get some of those scenes with him? Like some of those dream sequences were pretty intense, where he's.
Well, the thing with Ewen is he's a dear friend of mine, and we've known each other a long time. And obviously we sort of, you know, he's the guy from Trainspotting, and I'm the guy from Lock Stock. You know, it's like, you know, we were sort of at the same feasting at the same table, as it were, for a long time. But what everybody forgets, before I did Lock, Stock and before Trainspotting, I saw Ewan star in Trainspotting when it was a play. He was the lead. He was Renton. He was Ewen Bremner's character when it was on stage, and it was this fantastic ensemble theatre adaptation of Irving's book, and it was quite brilliant. And Ewan literally had me and Con O'Neill, who was the lead in Telstar in my first film, we went to see the play together, and I remember me and Con sharing a cab back, saying, well, I don't know about you, but I couldn't do that. That was the best acting we'd ever seen. Ewan was spectacular. I mean, it was tears and snot and laughter and the physicality. He did everything. He was spellbound, spectacular in the play. And then, you know, I saw him afterwards, and he was a bit down in the dumps because he was told that he wasn't going to be the lead in the movie. They were going to give him another role in the movie just to keep him happy, but he wasn't going to get the lead in the movie. So I always saw him as a leading man because I'd seen him on stage, and I knew that he had this like extra gear as an actor. He's got like this sixth gear that only a few actors have got, where he can really go there, you know, and you have to use it sparingly, but I knew that he had it in him. And so, you know, it was like driving a race car, you know. So with Ewan, I knew that he'd go there if I let him, if I wanted him to. And so, you know, obviously it has to make sense. It has to make sense for the character and the story and all the rest of it. But you know, it does. He's acting in this is sublime, and he'll do the loud insanity stuff when he's having a breakdown. But I think the thing where the real sublime performance is at the end when he's doing that recording that television interview, and he just goes into this rant, which we spent a lot of time working on and finessing, and this rant about what he did as a man, and if he'd fallen off that ladder as a kid, the world wouldn't be the same because you wouldn't have this, and then picks those people out, and then very subtly weeps when he's explaining that there are wizards in the world, and that if you control people, you can make things happen, and then realizes the embarrassment of what he's just said. It's just wonderful. And I remember I was talking to Danny Boyle about the script, and Danny was worried that last scene, which I'd worked on a lot, he thought it was too long and he didn't think it was going to work. And he was fully expecting, when he saw the rough cut, for that scene in the TV, that's going to go. That's never going to make the actual last cut of the film. It won't make the last cut. And he was so impressed by Ewan's performance, as well as, you know, the way I'd shot it with using the monitors instead of close-ups, you know, doing the close-ups with TV monitors. He was like, no, that has to stay. That's pivotal. That's fantastic. That's you know, that brings everything in. And it was to do, that scene would not have worked were it not for the fact that I had a 7-star actor, you know, that could do that. We could make that work, and it wouldn't have worked if he didn't have a director that knew that he could do that and that he could make it work. I mean, I addressed the skill set of the performance around what I knew Ewan could do, because not everyone knows that Ewan is as amazing as he is. You know, they've seen him as the funny guy in other films. Yeah, but, I mean, I really hope he gets the awards and the laurels he deserves for this film, because I haven't seen anyone be better than Ewen Bremner in this film in another movie this year. You know, I genuinely haven't, and I'd love someone else to be of that opinion so that he gets the prizes and the laurels he deserves.
Well, I can say for one, you guys knocked it out of the park. I thought everything about the movie was fantastic. The way you went through the history of his life and then where he's at now, but then they keep going back in the interview to what happened in the past, and that's got to be hard when you're editing all that together. That's got to be hard to keep it fluid and keep it consistent, so you're telling the story. Like you said, it takes a long time because you're behind the camera and you're in a different position now.
You know what
was
what was weird actually? What was quite strange is that this is me being an idiot, right? But I sort of assumed that Leo, that plays the young McGee, and Ewan, that plays the old Alan McGee, in my mind they were the same person. So I'd be saying to Ewan, you remember, it's like that time when you were in your bedroom and the dad walked in and he's like, I wasn't there, mate. I wasn't me. I'm like, all right. Oh yeah, sorry. You know, it's like that time. No, that was, you know, because for me, it's the same person. So I sort of tripped my, because I was thinking of it as you know, as a linear story. I totally forget they're two different people. You know, that wasn't. So I'd have to explain. No, there was a scene earlier where, oh right, okay, and you've already shot that. Yeah. All right, because obviously you read the script, but you didn't necessarily know. But what was, because both me and the editor as well, you know, because we're thinking of it as a continuous timeline, it meant that it was quite easy to drop in and out, because I wasn't thinking of it as two different actors or two different people. So in a way, that must have my stupidity sort of helped us, you know, helped make it more fluid going backwards and forwards, because I just thought of them as the same guy. But I think what's interesting is that you have to, in editing, is you have to pick your moments. You have to be able to know, when are we going to go backwards and when are we going to go drop back into the here and now, so that you don't outstay your welcome and you don't confuse, people aren't confused. What are we doing? Oh, we're there now. You know, it needs to be a bit seamless. So it was a case of constantly reminding people, so you don't stay back in the 80s or the 70s too long. You come back to the here and now as often as you can, to let people know where we are. And then, you know, once they're into that, you can start popping backwards and forwards quite quickly. People will understand that. And the golden rule is, you know, do it when it's funny. You know, as long as it's funny, you know, it's what. And I think we did that. There's a lot of. I'm surprised people take the film very seriously, and they should. But it, you know, it is bastard funny. You know, it is a very, very funny.
It is. Yeah.
You know, and that's, I think people don't want to say it's funny in the reviews, because it might make them seem less important. You know, the reviewers might not seem so highbrow and important if they say, by the way, it's also hilarious. But it is, you know, we always use the humor as a way of making sure that people are entertained. And if you can cut backwards and forwards and get a gag out of it, then you're on a safe wicket. You're on a really always look for let the humor help you when you're going backwards and forwards in timelines, because if there's something funny in that, people love it, then you're serving both purposes. You're getting backwards, you're going from the here and now, and you're using a joke to do it, then, you know, you're fine.
Yeah, because
comedy is the lube that will get you from the here and now to the past. That's a bit of filmmaking advice.
Well, and you know, sometimes filmmakers will do that, but then they lose their audience because they're not giving that time for that scene to work, and they don't transition properly, like you say. They're not leaving it on a high note.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of the stuff was kind of heavy, you know, with the stuff with his dad, you know, but that's just a part of his story, right? So
as long as, again, you know, you can come in with the serious stuff, but that needs, you know, that's a poignant pause for thought. Yeah. But I didn't want to make it a, you know, a sort of Ken Loach sort of heavy movie about violent alcoholic child beating in Glasgow. I wanted that just to be, yeah, well, it was like that, you know, and, you know, we just got on with it, because that's more interesting in a way. And it gives you you're far more interested in a character that just takes that as a given, but doesn't dwell on it and doesn't complain about it and doesn't make a big issue out of it. It's like, yeah,
it's just a part of who he is.
Part of that family dynamic. Yeah. And also it means that the father character can become, in a strange way, like intriguingly likable, because he's so yeah, he does do that. He doesn't makes no bones about he hits his son, but he's also like he's such a bizarre contradiction of a character, and there is something sort of likable about him, and especially the way that Richard played it. He's so big but it's like he's playing a character himself. He's, look at me, I am the dad, I am in charge. Right. And it's obviously a front, and the way that all the comedy aspects that Richard brought to it and were lovely. The great thing about the movie was casting a good 3 or 4 people, especially the unknown guys that were from Glasgow, means that it was effortless. The sisters, the dad, even grandma, getting them, they could just open their mouths and say 2 lines, and it's so believable and so either offensive or charming. It was just let them roll with it. And you get 2 or 3 people from Glasgow in a room and just let them improvise, let them riff a little bit, and you'll get some gold. You'll get some brilliant one-liners. It's like the young kids, the unknown kids that play the young Alan, and then his 2 friends that become Primal Scream. The young Bobby Gillespie and the young Innes. Just because they're kids from Glasgow, they're just the stuff on the train, the stuff that was just riffed. Just look, go for it. I love that. Do more of it, and then you get this real sense of of the time and place, which was a joy. And it's funny because some of the Canadians and Americans don't understand the insults, and I had to explain. Neither do I. Therefore, shut up, you tube. I don't know what that means, but I love it. Let's keep it. Yeah, the fucking weird tube. No idea. Couldn't translate it. No, but keep it in. So all of those insults are just just let them run with it, because it's it's gold.
Well, that's the benefit of being an actor yourself, is because you can just let your cast kind of do those improv scenes, and sometimes you get some really great performances, as you said.
I mean, Jason Isaacs is he's a dear and old friend of mine, and we did the Harry Potters together. We've done a couple of other films together, and he was just off the leash. He just, and that stuff. A lot of the stuff we had to trim down because it was too much. But he was all of those. Most of that stuff is just him, just riffing. He's just brilliant. They'll come from the hood, council estates, poor people crammed together. And it was just that. Did he just say that's brilliant? He just off the, it's like a Boys in the Hood meets Forrest Gump. Where did that come from? Where did that come? I write? No one wrote. That's brilliant. Off we go, Jake. Brilliant. So he's such and because you're, as an actor, I speak actor. To these people, this strange language that a lot of directors don't speak, and they want to look and sound brilliant. They want to do everything they can to help the film, and they want to look great while they're doing it. So just tell them the thing that they need to hear to help that happen. And that's why I got such great performances from everybody, because I'm not frightened to let them riff, and I can go in like a ringmaster and go, no, that's too, just stick to the script. Eventually, actors, as one, I know this, but you get these great actors and they'll go off and they'll riff and they'll go off on tangents and they'll improvise, and then they'll run out of ideas and they'll get bored and they'll gravitate back to what's written. They'll gravitate back to the script. And so just let them. And Roberto, my world's greatest DOP, shot The Kite Runner and Quantum of Solace, is amazing DOP I've got, and he's filming these guys that are just going off on these mad tangents, looking at me. I was like, that's fine. They'll run out of steam in a minute and they'll end up saying the script. And they do, but then they go back to the script with this fantastic frisson and maybe a couple of extra jokes or a couple of bits that have been picked up. And you have this, you can't film low budget, single camera, films for that sort of, where you're filming 8 and 10 pages a day with a tight discipline. You can't, and then you say this, and I want to extreme close up, and you say this line. We don't have time for that. What I need is, it needs to be free form jazz. It needs to be a live album. And you need to let people run around and have that Ewan was frustrated sometimes because he's trying to concentrate. He's got so much going on, but I have to, as the ringmaster, let people feel that they can muck around and play about, because otherwise they're not gonna move quickly enough. You know, I need to keep everybody moving at 60 miles an hour so that we can that's how you get 10 pages a day filmed. And you, ironically, the less discipline there is, the more you'll get, you know, because people are moving quickly, people are having fun, people are riffing, people are moving about, and that's how you make that's how you make that film happen. That's how you move really quickly. It's the more discipline you have, ironically, the slower you'll move. And that's something I've learned as an actor from the whatever 50, or someone told me it was 100, but 50 odd films I've done as an actor, and as a director, you know, I know that that's how you make things work. And you get these wonderful one-liners that nobody had written.
Well, unfortunately, Nick, we've run out of time.
Oh, shit.
I know. It's been wonderful talking to you. And
oh, well, you know, okay, one last question. Anything else?
Well, I just know you've got your other films that you have, and some you have in post, and one's completed, and so you've got quite a lot of stuff that you've got coming out still, and you've got another movie that is out now as well. And
yeah, the most exciting thing is we've got the funding for the next movie that I'm directing, and that's an art forgery caper comedy, like a really low rent Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 if everybody was on welfare. So it's an Ocean's 11 on welfare, an art forgery film, and we're putting that. I've just had a meeting with my first AD to go over the script on that, and I'm hoping to be in production, if not the end of this year, then the very beginning of next year. So maybe this time next year we'll be talking again about that. So that's the most exciting thing. It's called Picasso Before Breakfast, and it's an art forgery caper, and I look forward to you reviewing that. It's all going very well. So you know, the acting is the acting, but as the director, I'm trying to get all the energy and the goodwill behind this movie to just make sure that there isn't such a wait before I bring the world another Nick Moran film. So this one will be happening in the next 6 months, and you'll know all about it.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing it.
Okay,
and
buddy.
I thank you so much for your time, and it was wonderful to get to meet you.
Well, as I said, I'll see you again. See you on the next one. And give my love to Vancouver, and well done with the gold medals you've been winning.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
Bye-bye.
All the best.